Storytime with Mrs. Erica. Hi friends, we're gonna read 6 of your favorite Halloween stories today. Alright, let's keep reading. Happy Halloween! It's Halloween night and the Count hears someone knocking at his castle door. Is something spooky going on? Find out when Count, Elmo, Big Bird, and all the Sesame Street friends get together for a very happy Halloween. Happy Halloween by Lily and Jane and illustrated by Ernie Quid. Once upon a Halloween creepy, the Count was getting rather sleepy. While he nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at his castle door. "A visitor!" he cried with glee. "I think they'd like some treats from me." But when he looked outside his door, he saw darkness there and nothing more. "Trick or treat!" a small voice cried. The Count jumped up in great surprise. "Elmo! Is that you I see?" "It is," said Elmo. "Happy Halloween!" Come in, the Count invited. "My first guest, I'm so excited." But only seconds passed before they heard one tap, 2 taps, and then a third. Tap, tap, tap. When they took a glance outside, a frightening sight met both their eyes. "A ghost! A ghost!" they cried with fear. "Not me," they heard. "There's no ghost here." Then Elmo noticed something more. He knew he'd seen those feet before. "Big Bird," he asked, "could it be you?" "Yes, it's me," he shouted. "Boo!" Again the door closed with a snap. Again they heard that tap, tap, tap. A trick or a treater? Elmo wondered. The Count looked scared. The black sky thundered. Tap, tap, tap. Through the window they took a peek, and what they saw made them shout, "Eek!" A bony creature gazed at them. "Oh no!" they cried. "A skeleton!" The creature smiled, took off his mask. The Count couldn't help but gasp. "Grover," he said with relief. "Thank goodness it's just make-believe." More friends arrived to trick or treat, and every costume looked quite neat. "Come in," Count said. "Come, everyone. Let's all have some spooky fun." And now the night was in full swing, and the Count had planned for everything. But then, oh no! A loud voice cried, "I hear a tapping from outside." "Another guest?" Count worried, wondered. Again outside, the black sky thundered. He looked around, then he looked again. All 10 friends were there with him. A monster, a pumpkin, a ghost, and a cat. Pirates, a robot, a witch in a hat. There was the knight, the skeleton too. So what was tapping? Nobody knew. Tap, 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 they heard once more. Then they gathered at the door. Deep into the darkness peering, long they stood there, wondering, fearing. Who could it be? What would it do? And then they smiled. They saw you.
Hooray!
"You're here," said everyone.
Happy Halloween!
Come join the fun. All right, the end. Thank you, friends, for reading along with me today. Until next time, happy Halloween! Peppa's Halloween Party. Subscribe for fun videos. Peppa's Halloween Party. Peppa's Halloween Party. It is the spookiest time of the year. Peppa and her family play outside in the leaves, carve pumpkins, and dress up in costumes for a Halloween party with all of their friends. It is a lovely fall day, and Peppa and George are playing outside. Time to come inside and get ready for the Halloween party, calls Daddy Pig. In the kitchen, Mommy Pig shows them how to make a pumpkin lantern. First, they scoop out the pumpkin seeds. Then Mommy Pig puts a candle inside the pumpkin and lights it. "Oh, pretty," says Peppa. Mommy and Daddy Pig help Peppa and George put on their costumes. Peppa is a witch and George is a dinosaur. "Hee hee hee," Peppa cackles. "Very witchy," says Mommy Pig. "Dinosaur, grrr," growls George. "I almost forgot my magic book," says Peppa. "Now I can cast a spell." She waves her magic wand. Abracadabra! Peppa and George's friends have arrived outside. Everyone is wearing a spooky Halloween costume. Howl! Suddenly they hear a howl. Howl! "What was that?" asks Peppa. "Only me," says Danny Dog. "I'm a werewolf." Peppa notices that Emily Elephant has a green face. "What are you, Emily?" she asks. "I'm an alien. Bleep, blop, bleep," she replies, laughing. "And Edmund is a ghost. Actually, I'm a paranormal apparition," corrects Edmund. "That's a clever Clog's ghost." Daddy Pig appears at the door. "Welcome to the party, everyone," he booms. "Come inside and have some pumpkin pie." Inside, the house is decorated with pumpkins, balloons, cobwebs, and bats hanging from the ceiling. Spooky. Even Madame Gazelle has come to the party. "Hello," says Susie Sheep. "I'm a vampire." "Ah, a vampire," says Madame Gazelle. "What a wonderful costume." How strange. Susie notices that Madame Gazelle does not have a reflection in the mirror. She must have learned a fun magic trick. Daddy Pig puts on some music for everyone to dance to. "I love dressing up," says Susie Sheep. "I love Halloween parties," shouts Peppa. "And everyone loves my delicious pumpkin pie," says Daddy Pig. Everyone had a very happy Halloween. Thank you for joining me for another spooky Halloween story. All right, happy Halloween.
Subscribe now.
Story time with Mrs. Erica. Subscribe for more fun stories. Hello, friends. Today we're going to read Curious George Haunted Halloween. Are you guys excited for this story today? All right, let's keep reading to find out what happens. Curious George Haunted Halloween. This year, George was spending Halloween in the country. The last autumn leaves were falling. George and the man with the yellow hat were busy raking. Mrs. Rinkins rolled by on her bicycle. "Halloween's here! Hang on to your hats," she shouted. "Happy Halloween, Mrs. Rinkins," said the man. George was curious. Why would he need to hang on to his hat? George went to the Rinkinsons' farm. There were so many pumpkins. His friends Allie and Bill were there too. "Hang on to your hats," said Bill. George and Allie were confused. Why was everyone saying that? "Haven't you heard of the legend of No Noggin?" Bill asked. They hadn't. Then Bill told them the spooky story. A long time ago, there was a scarecrow perched by an old lonesome tree. It had a big pumpkin for a head and a hat on top. But one Halloween, the pumpkin went missing. From then on, everybody called the scarecrow No Noggin because it had no head. No Noggin was angry. What good was a hat without a head? That's why every Halloween night, No Noggin shows up and kicks people's hats off. George was spooked. "A headless scarecrow ghost!" "Don't worry," said Bill. "Just make sure you hang on to your hat on Halloween." George went home with his pumpkin. He wanted to see his friend and find out more about No Noggin. "It's just a legend, George," said the man. "A tall tale, a ghost story. It's not real." But George wasn't so sure. George and his friend decided to carve a jack-o'-lantern. George tried to get his mind off ghosts, but he needed to know if No Noggin was real. The next night was Halloween. George and Allie were hiding near Old Lonesome Tree. They were going to catch No Noggin on camera. Suddenly, they saw a shadow. Could it be No Noggin? George took a photo. But it was only Bill in his wizard costume. Then George and Allie had an idea. Bill could help catch No Noggin with his wizard hat. Bill stood near Old Lonesome Tree. He walked back and forth and waited for No Noggin to kick his hat. Suddenly, Bill's hat flew off his head. George and Allie chased the moving hat into a cave. Inside the cave, they found Bill's hat and Jumpy Squirrel and lots of other hats, all filled with acorns. There was no headless scarecrow. It had been Jumpy all along. Jumpy and his squirrel friends had taken the hats to collect acorns. George and his friends had solved the mystery, and they even had proof to show everyone the truth behind the legend of No Noggin. Well, maybe after Halloween. Now it was time for George to put on his costume and join his friends for trick-or-treating. Thank you for reading along with me today, and please subscribe for more great stories. Subscribe! Grumpy Monkey, Don't Be Scared by Suzanne Lang, illustrated by Max Lang. It was Halloween in the jungle, the spookiest night of the year, but it was also a night for treats. So Jim, Pansy, and his friends braved the dark in hope they might find some good ones. As they walked, Jim noticed how different everything looked at night. The trees looked eerie, and he kept hearing a strange knocking sound. Knock, 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 knock. What's that noise? Asked Jim. There are lots of night noises in the jungle, said Porcupine. Don't be scared. I'm not scared, said Jim. The only thing I'm scared of, said Leslie the giraffe, is not getting any treats. Suddenly, a creepy cackling could be heard. Just another night noise? Gulped Jim. Someone should look behind the tree, said Norman. Not it, shouted Leslie. Not it, echoed Jim, Norman, and Warthog. I'll do it, said Porcupine. She walked closer to the tree and closer. Be careful, called Warthog. It's just Hyena, Porcupine said. Don't be scared. I'm not scared, said Jim. Ha 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 ha. Happy Halloween, called Hyena, tossing treats to Jim and his friends. The sky grew even darker. Suddenly, something slimy wrapped itself around Jim's leg. Something's got Jim! Warthog screamed. Ah! It's just Aardvark, said Porcupine. Don't be scared. I'm not scared, said Jim. I am, said Warthog. Pleased to meet you and a very good Halloween to you all, Aardvark said, giving them some treats. The friends continued their walk. The wind whistled. Jim shivered. It's getting late, he said. Maybe we should go home. I could do with a few more treats, said Norman. Me too, said Porcupine. I hadn't gotten anything I liked. Tell me about it, said Warthog. More like smell me about it, said Leslie. Who farted? She who smelt it dealt it, declared Warthog. The smell was getting stronger. It smelled like rotten eggs mixed with old cabbage soup and armpits. It made Jim's eyes water. That's no fart, said Norman. What is it? Asked Jim. It's just Polecat, said Porcupine. Pole what? Asked Warthog. Polecat, said Porcupine. He's a night animal. Don't be scared, said Leslie. I'm not scared, said Jim. Actually, said Porcupine, you should be a little scared. Don't come in my house, shouted Polecat, spraying the stinkiest liquid Jim had ever smelled. Run! Screamed Warthog. That was close, said Norman. You bet your butt it was, said Leslie. Jim looked around. It was so dark that he had no idea where they were. And then he heard the knocking sound again. Knock, 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 knock. But in the deep dark, Jim couldn't tell where the sound was coming from. Knock, 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 knock. Don't be scared, said Porcupine. It's just night noises. I'm not scared, squeaked Jim. Suddenly, two glowing eyes flashed overhead. screamed the eyes, which seemed to be darting all around. Jim couldn't take it anymore. The cold, the dark, the smells, the noises. It was all too much. "I'm scared!" he screamed. "I'm really, really scared!" Jim felt something tap his shoulder. "Don't be scared," a little voice said. "I'm..." The knocking and screaming were me. I was knocking on trees, looking for bugs to eat. You and your friends startled me, so I screamed. "I guess we both got scared," said Jim. "It's okay," said Norman. "Everyone feels scared sometimes." "Here, have some Halloween treats," said "Finally, some good treats," said Warthog. Jim and his friends shared the yummy treats. They took turns scaring one another. "Boo!" shouted Leslie from behind the tree. "Boo!" shouted Porcupine, popping out from under a pile of leaves. It was a spooky good time. Cold, dark, noisy, and smelly. P.U. Treats, said Polecat. The end. Did you all like Grumpy Monkey? All right. Until next time, bye. Subscribe for more fun stories. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Written by Charles M. Schultz. Every fall, the leaves on the trees turn brown and fall off the branches. Pumpkins grow big and plump in their patches. The air grows cooler and the people start to think about their Halloween costumes. And every fall, Linus writes a very important letter. Dear Great Pumpkin, Linus writes, I'm looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night. I hope you will bring me lots of presents. Who are you writing to? Asks Charlie Brown. The Great Pumpkin, Linus replies. On Halloween night, the Great Pumpkin rises out of his pumpkin patch and flies through the air with his bag of toys for all the children. Linus's sister, Lucy, isn't happy that Linus is writing to the Great Pumpkin. You'll make me the laughing stock of the neighborhood, she complains. But Charlie Brown's sister, Sally, doesn't think Linus is crazy. She thinks Linus is wonderful. He is her sweet baboo. Wouldn't you like to sit with me in the pumpkin patch on Halloween night and wait for the Great Pumpkin? Linus asks. Sally is thrilled. I'd love to, she tells Linus. Later that day, Charlie Brown has a surprise waiting for him in the mailbox. I got an invitation to a Halloween party, he exclaims. Lucy thinks the invitation must be a mistake. There were 2 lists, she tells Charlie Brown, one to invite and one not to invite. Charlie Brown knows which list he was probably on, but he decides to go to the party anyway. On Halloween night, everyone is planning to go to the party, except Linus. My blockhead brother will be out in the pumpkin patch making his yearly fool of himself, Lucy grumbles. She can't understand why Linus would choose to miss out on all the fun that Halloween has to offer by sitting around in a pumpkin patch. Everyone puts on their costumes. Lucy is dressed as a witch. Charlie Brown is dressed as a ghost. but no one can tell what he is supposed to be because he has some trouble with his scissors. Sally is also dressed as a ghost, and so is Schroeder. They figured out how to use the scissors just fine. Pigpen is dressed as a ghost too. Everyone can tell which ghost he is because a cloud of dust surrounds him. Snoopy walks by also dressed in a costume. "Who in the world is that?" asked Lucy. "He's a World War I flying ace," Charlie Brown exclaims. "Now I've seen everything," Lucy says. Lucy declares that everyone will go trick-or-treating first and then go to the Halloween party. As they pass by the pumpkin patch, Linus sees them and gets excited, thinking they have come to wait with him. "Have you come to sing pumpkin carols with me?" he asks. "You blockhead!" Lucy yells at her brother. "You're gonna miss all the fun, just like last year." "Don't talk like that," Linus cries. "The great pumpkin will come because I am in the most sincere pumpkin patch." "Oh, good grief," Lucy exclaims. She marches off with her friends. It looks like no one wants to join Linus in the pumpkin patch to wait for the great pumpkin. Except, what about Sally? Sally is torn. She doesn't want to miss out on all the fun or trick-or-treating and a party. But Linus is her sweet boo-boo. What should she do? Sally runs back to the pumpkin patch. "I'm glad you came back," Linus tells her. "You'll see the great pumpkin with your own eyes." Linus is positive the great pumpkin will pick this patch. Why wouldn't he? The great pumpkin chooses the most sincere patch to visit every year. And how could a pumpkin patch be more sincere than this one? Sally hopes Linus is right. Meanwhile, the rest of the kids go trick-or-treating. "Tricks or treats, money or eats," they yell at the first door. Everyone compares what they got. "I got 5 pieces of candy," brags Lucy. "I got a chocolate bar," exclaims Patty. "I got a quarter," says Violet happily. "I got a rock," says Charlie Brown sadly. And that happens at every door. All the other kids get wonderful treats like candy, gum, and popcorn balls. And Charlie Brown gets rocks. Lucy decides they have done enough trick-or-treating and it's time to go to the party. After all, everyone has a bag filled to the brim with treats. Everyone except Charlie Brown. He has a bag full of rocks. On their way to the party, they pass by the pumpkin patch again. The kids laugh at Linus and Sally for waiting there instead of coming to the party. "The great pumpkin will be here," Sally yells, defending Linus. After the kids walk by, Sally turns to Linus. "All right, where is he?" she asks. "He'll be here," Linus assures her. "I hope so," Sally replies. "I think of all the fun we're missing." And the Halloween party is a lot of fun for everyone except Charlie Brown. At first, Charlie Brown thinks his night is looking up when the other kids ask him to be the model for the jack-o'-lantern. That sounds like a great honor. But then he realizes that being the model means having Violet draw a big pumpkin face on the back of his head. Meanwhile, in the pumpkin patch, Sally is growing tired of waiting for the great pumpkin. "If anyone had told me I'd be waiting in the pumpkin patch on Halloween night, I'd have said they were crazy," she complains. Just then, she and Linus hear a rumbling noise. They see a shadow emerging from the pumpkin patch. It's the great pumpkin! Rising up out of the pumpkin patch, Linus yells. He is so excited to see the great pumpkin that he faints. But it isn't the great pumpkin after all. It is just a World War I flying ace on his way back from a very important mission. Linus wakes up and asks Sally what happened. I was robbed! Howls Sally. Halloween is over and I missed it. She stumps out of the pumpkin patch, leaving Linus all alone to wait for the great pumpkin. Linus falls asleep waiting, and later that night, Lucy comes to bring him home and tuck him into his warm bed. The next day, Charlie Brown tries to make Linus feel better. Don't take it too hard that the great pumpkin never showed up, he tells his friend. But Linus doesn't feel let down. Just wait until next year, he tells Charlie Brown. I'll find the most sincere pumpkin patch, and I'll sit in that pumpkin patch until the great pumpkin appears. The end. Thank you guys for joining me for another read aloud. Until next time, bye. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to read Corduroy's Best Halloween Ever. Are you guys ready for Halloween? I know I am. Corduroy's Best Halloween Ever, based on the character created by Don Freeman and illustrated by Lisa McHugh. It was almost Halloween. Corduroy and his friends were getting ready. They went to pick out a pumpkin for Corduroy's Halloween party. There was so much to do before the party. Corduroy raked the leaves. Rabbit, Puppy, and Mouse tried to help, but jumping in the leaf piles was much more fun. Corduroy and his friends helped Mrs. Pig decorate her store windows. She thanked them with a hot, delicious pumpkin pie. Yum! Back at Corduroy's house, they all started talking about their costumes for Halloween. I'm gonna be a pumpkin, said Mouse. I'm gonna be a lion, said Rabbit, the king of the jungle. My costume is a secret, said Puppy. It's really great. I want you all to be surprised. Corduroy was worried. He didn't have an idea for a costume yet. What would he wear for Halloween? Later, while Corduroy was shopping for his party, he spotted a whole bunch of costumes. Finding a costume would be easy with all of these choices. Corduroy tried on the lion costume. Roar! He looked ferocious. But then he remembered that Rabbit was dressing up as a lion. He tried on the pumpkin costume. It fit perfectly. But oops, didn't Mouse say he was going as a pumpkin? I know, thought Corduroy. I will be a scary witch with a pointy hat. But then he remembered something. His friend Dolly wanted to dress up as a witch. Then he saw the perfect thing. A dinosaur mask. Wow, thought Corduroy. I can make a great costume to go with that mask. Corduroy went home to work on his costume. He found an old pair of green pajamas and some scraps of fabric. He cut, he glued, he even sewed. Finally, he was finished. Halloween night finally came. Corduroy was so excited for his party. Ding dong! The doorbell rang. Who could it be? The party wasn't supposed to start for another hour. Corduroy opened the door. Puppy looked very sad. Corduroy, I had the best costume and it fell apart. It's all in pieces. What should I do? Corduroy thought about it. He loved his costume. But Puppy was so sad, and Corduroy knew that friends were more important than costumes. It's okay, Puppy. I have a costume you can wear. Really? Said Puppy. But Corduroy, what will you wear? Don't worry. I have an idea, said Corduroy. But he didn't really. What would he wear? Corduroy thought and thought. He thought all through the party. It was a really fun party, too. They bobbed for apples and carved jack-o'-lanterns and ate cookies and punch. They even danced the Monster Mash. It was almost time to go trick-or-treating, and Corduroy still didn't have a costume. Suddenly, he really did have an idea. He carefully moved everything off of the table. He held up the tablecloth. Perfect, thought Corduroy. He cut holes for eyes and a mouth. He looked at the punch and chocolate stains all over the tablecloth. I am a ghost who just came from a Halloween party, said Corduroy. All of his friends laughed. It was a great costume. Let's go trick-or-treat. Everybody loved Corduroy's costume. What a creative idea, they said. Corduroy felt proud, and Puppy loved his dinosaur costume. Everyone was happy. It was the best Halloween ever. The end. Thank you, friends, for joining me with another read-along today. Have you picked out your Halloween costume yet? All right, happy Halloween!